How are you?
Great to see you, Armen. How's it going so far?
Well, we're over the hump, and we have one, two, three, four. We have five more, but we're doing
Hi.
great.
So you have concurrent sessions too, I think.
We have
So
we just had,
is it one sequential or concurrent? I know I saw Latina leadership, foreign policy, foreign affairs, careers.
yeah, it's sequential. So pretty much on the hour, except the last segment, we had a cooking segment live from Chihuahua, from a friend's friend who is has a restaurant in Chihuahua.
Uh-huh.
And then we just finished the segment with the International School of San Antonio,
Great.
and she put me on the spot and said I should be the student to learn Chinese. So that was something.
Ni hao. Ni hao.
You're a step ahead of me, Bill.
Not by much, my friend. Sorry, I hope, are we live with your audience?
We're live.
Oh, how
Yes.
about that? I'm just straightening up. Everybody, I'm just straightening up the background. Optics is important too.
While you're doing that, let me. Are you all situated, or you need a
I'm
little
good.
bit?
Ready to go.
All right, and and then Donnie Duggan will join us at the 30-minute mark.
I'm
So
excited.
we can fill in. I know we're going to play a video shortly, but thank you for joining us, Bill Clifford. He's with World Affairs Councils of America, based out of D.C. He is the president and CEO, and just has been a tremendous person to interact with, and is leading our national organization very strongly, very creatively, and with determination. So I'm proud to be part of this organization, and much, and also proud to have someone like Bill who's steering the ship on the national level. So thank you for doing that, Bill.
Thank you, Armin. It's great to be here. And thanks to everybody who are members of the World Affairs Council of San Antonio, as well as supporters and friends of the local council and our national network of 90 World Affairs Councils across the country.
And there are 90, right? There are 90 affiliates around the country.
That's correct. Coast to coast, plus Alaska and Hawaii.
Have you visited those offices yet?
I've visited probably close to a third or more of the network, including, I want to thank your council, which played host in the summer of 2018 to our semi-annual offsite. We do a big event, as you know, in November, which is a national conference that brings leaders and members to Washington. But we rotate through the network, and San Antonio was a wonderful host for our leaders and staff professional development meetings, as well as our national board meeting. And I should also be sure to thank Carlos Alvarez, who I know has been a great supporter of your council and who serves and has been a long-serving member of the WACA National Board.
Yes, absolutely. And I know that he had sent his apologies. They have a all-day staff retreat of some sort to attend to, so they couldn't. But he did send a contribution, and so we appreciate that, for particularly for our programming today. So thank you to Carlos Alvarez for his efforts locally and nationally. Um, I wanted to spend a few minutes to talk about, what I think people can now see what we do, if they weren't familiar with us, with the programming that we're doing, that we've shared early in the morning here. But and by the way, we're gonna add Bill's bio to the comment section. So I'd like to spend more time with respect to bios, to have you all read it rather than go through the list of accomplishments. I know you have done broadcasting though, right? Or journal. You were.
Yes, I have.
But that's fascinating. Maybe you could give a little blurb about that, because that ties into our freedom of the press topic that the next hour.
Absolutely. Well, I guess you could say I'm a recovering journalist, Armen. I spent my first half of my professional career in journalism, mainly as an overseas foreign correspondent based in Tokyo, Japan. In fact, when I was in grad school here in DC, I worked for both the Wall Street Journal and the Far Eastern Economic Review magazine, which became a property of Dow Jones that unfortunately no longer exists. But when I moved to Japan in the early 90s, I was originally, originally with the Nihon Keizai Shimbun and its English paper, the Nikkei Weekly. Nikkei is essentially a huge publisher and the equivalent of Dow Jones Wall Street Journal for Japan. Um, and after working in print and for an American wire service, I transitioned to a career in broadcast journalism with CNBC Asia, and later was the bureau chief at CBS Market Watch, which also extended my both my interest and beat as a financial and economics reporter, as well as the broadness of covering the entire Asia region.
Wow. And did you leave there to come to the World Affairs Council, or what was the transition to the World?
Well, the transition was Japan by the turn of the 2000s was really in a prolonged recession, and a lot of companies were relocating their expats back to the United States. So my wife, who worked for a large US bank, was relocated to Boston, which happened to be my hometown, and my two kids were ready to enter elementary school, so the timing ended up being right. And at that time, I went through a transition to being, first of all, a dad full time, and then gradually wet my whistle with various nonprofits in the educational space, particularly in after school education and mentoring. And then the World Affairs Council of Boston, which is known as World Boston, was seeking an executive director. So I applied for that job, got it, and ran the local council, as you are doing, in San Antonio for about 6 years before arriving in Washington to lead the national network.
And what drew you to the mission?
Well, I guess, you know, both international and DNA are, international and education are in my DNA. My parents were educators. My father a professor, my mother a school teacher in Massachusetts, where public education began in this country. I think there was just a high emphasis in everything I experienced growing up, be it having international visitors come stay with us during summers, participating in a high school World Affairs Club and the Model United Nations, and then at college, studying international relations and spending a year abroad studying in Paris. All of these things, I think, filtered into my interest in learning about the world and in, as I became a journalist, in conveying information that would be important to a general audience, and in my particular slice of journalism, those who follow financial markets and the world economy. And to be honest with you, Armen, a lot of people ask me, like, isn't this a great change to the, to the nonprofit sector? We're still dealing with a lot of the same subject matter in terms of foreign policy and international economics and trade and the like. But also, I think in terms of a skill set, it's very similar. When you're pursuing a story in journalism, you're building trust with sources. And the same goes for donors to nonprofits and the people you represent, meaning my peers like you and the 90 council leaders and stakeholders around the country in the World Affairs Council system.
What is, I guess, international relations is something that has been relevant. It's always been relevant in its impact locally. And we always seem to say, particularly now, and that bar seems to get higher or lower depending on how you look at it.
More vital than ever.
Yes, more vital than ever. So what, whether you want to get into specifics or not, as far as international policy or international subjects and things that are happening, you always have wars and genocides and civil wars and what's happening at Belarus now. And why do you think what the World Affairs Council does in a big picture, why is that relevant?
Well, we, along with other institutions and organizations and the communities that we serve, simply can't avoid touching on these issues. They affect every person. And the issues I'm talking about are all around us today. And why more important than ever, coronavirus is a global pandemic. It's a health crisis that is affecting every single country except, according to North Korea. The consequential economic distress has also affected every society. Our Federal Reserve is pumping billions into our economy in various ways to stimulate and sustain our, well, you can't even call it growth right now because we are in the deepest economic recession since the 1930s. And to get out of it, our policymakers are taking numerous steps, as well as the fiscal stimulus legislated by Congress, and we're looking at another set right now. This is not only affecting our economy, it's affecting markets worldwide. Other governments are responding similarly, and we are affected by that. We are affected by disruptions and shifts in the supply chain system that deliver us goods that are in our driveways, on our mantle, with hung television screens, on the food we eat. All of this is affected by the world, and it impinges on us. Last but not least, the third crisis we're experiencing today is an explosive social upheaval in this country, especially involving the Black Lives Matter movement and how racism is spawning anti-racism protests and the alliances that the people participating in those largely peaceful protests are making common cause, not only in this country, but virtually around the world.
To kind of dig into that a little bit more, there's the economic impact and cultural impact. And it's something that 2 hours ago, we were talking to several upstanding people in the community nationwide who were talking about race relations. Mm-hmm. And the ability to connect to people and the willingness to do that and to get out of your comfort zones to do that. I know this is a leading question, but does the World Affairs Council kind of bridge that in a way to, hey, if you don't know Korean culture, well, here's a panel that you can meet and talk to and ask questions. Can you talk a little bit about the empathy
Sure.
that arises from the work that the council does?
Well, thank you for that question. It's so important, especially today. And you raised a number of threads that I think we should address. And I hope if there's time to do, if we're going to have a Q&A at all with your audience, this certainly is a relevant subject. yes, on the broad international sense, because we are very close in Washington, D.C., with working very closely with the diplomatic community of more than 185 countries. We are in touch with all the colors of the world, and we are, if you will, I hate to use the word agents, but we are facilitators and bridge builders for the public diplomacy of our Foreign Service and State Department, and also the diplomatic corps of other countries, so that we bring the world, if you will, to our local communities. And some of our partners do that particularly well. We are primarily at World Affairs Councils, as you know, conveners, but some councils also administer the US State Department's International Visitor Leadership Program and other high-profile exchange programs that unfortunately these days, because of the pandemic, are on pause, but we are getting around that by video links with our friends overseas. These relationships and these convenings help our general public understand what's going on in the world, not only in terms of issues, but as you said, to form human connections, empathy for shared experiences of natural disasters, of climate change, of poverty, and Americans, I think, have been very generous in spirit, both politically and philanthropically, and have been world leaders in this regard. And we have a role to play in connecting the ideas and the concerns and the problems that need solving by bringing those experts to the table at our various councils. Now, there is a discussion going on, and some in our network are I would call more advanced in its spread than others, and that is, to what extent do we undertake to discuss national issues like the such as going on with the Black Lives Matter and other protests. I believe we have an obligation to do so. I think there's a difference of opinion within the network, and because councils are independently organized and governed and free to program as they see fit, not everybody may agree with what I think we should be doing, and some are doing it, in my view, more aggressively than others. And that is to say that domestic issues of any kind, but particularly this issue, resonate with the stability of our society, which has an impact on how America can project not only power in the world, because let's face it, it's not just white people who are serving in the military or in the Foreign Service, it's everybody, and they should be equally proportionally represented, but also because it's an expression of our democratic values. And if we don't have the values right, we lose a piece of the force of what has been behind American foreign policy in the last 70 years, which is to say, we want democracies overseas. They tend to be more peaceful. They tend to, be more prosperous. They tend to create connections within and between societies that make them more resilient and make lives better for a greater number of people. That's why I think it's important that we do this.
I know my good brother from Miami, who spoke earlier. He's the CEO of Big Brothers Big Sisters there. He said, if you have a platform, this is the time to use it, whatever that platform is, and not, the worst thing to do is not to say anything. And I've seen a lot of councils step up, and it's kudos to you for leading that effort. So I think that needs to be said. We have a few questions.
Armen, if I may, one other aspect of that is it's not only the right thing to do, which is the most important thing, in my opinion. It's it's a helpful thing for World Affairs Councils, because it's right now, we are typically known for being able to convene on global issues and national issues. And the virtual space that we have had to transition to because of the pandemic is really growing our audiences. And it's giving us the chance to be accessible to communities of color that haven't traditionally been well represented at a lot, I would say, not a lot, at a number of our events at the local level. And if we can reach those communities now and engage them too, and make them part of the conversation, you know, we're going to have a much stronger, more influential network when it comes to bringing thought leaders together.
You know, we had the Ambassador Vooters on a couple hours ago, and he said the question was, you know, what could people do internationally to continue this conversation, and what the World Affairs Council does. And his recommendation was a World Affairs Council in Belgium. So maybe we could start working on that. I don't mind being the guinea pig if
well, thank you. And Ambassador Wooters has been a good friend to the council system. He's spoken to a number of others over the years of his tenure, which is finishing up actually. So I'm glad that you were able to have him on this special platform today. I actually am invited to a dinner, which I assume will be socially distanced in the next couple of days with to say farewell to Ambassador Wooters. I will be glad to discuss this topic with him. You know, it's come up before, primarily with Canada and Mexico, our neighbors, our closest neighbors. And I think at the time, you know, we don't exactly manage. There should be a very clear conception of what the World Affairs Councils of America is. We are an association of councils like yours, and we can get into you know, sort of the nuts and bolts of that relationship. But basically, you know, we do not manage what councils do. We provide services to help you thrive is probably the simplest way to look at it, we hope. And it's a hard job for a small office in Washington to serve 90 councils equitably and so forth. And so it is very appealing to me to have councils outside the United States. We would, if we don't control you, we certainly aren't going to control them. And there are certain states that don't have the same values on the freedom of press and civil society. Belgium, fortunately, is right there with the United States, of course, and we've done a lot with the European Union. But you know, it's an issue of to what extent could we serve them. I think it's a great idea for each country that can have such a nonprofit, nonpartisan network, have them, but they probably wouldn't report to us, they would associate with us loosely.
There's a question about other cities in the U.S., how they're active, and what are there any potential prospects? Have other cities, are they experimenting with starting their own?
Yes, there is a process to become a World Affairs Council, and there are certain core aspects, including having a 501c3 designation with the IRS. So there are compliance issues, you know, with respect to the government, and also we like to make sure that this isn't just a hobby horse that's sprung up, that there's a business model behind, and I use that word very deliberately because running a nonprofit organization, as you know, is not just a light charitable activity. It's a serious professional activity, and there needs to be a board of directors. There needs to be the governance. There needs to be the community support from stakeholders, be it business, academic leaders, and other NGOs, as well as an engaged citizenry. And it needs to sort of have a business plan. We're working with Omaha, which has had for many years, decades even, a long-running council that has not been part of the network. And my understanding is they are very close to joining, and we would welcome that, because while we're in 40 or 41 states, we are not in Nebraska currently, and we should be. We should be in all states.
Yes, absolutely. There were a couple points it triggered me while you were responding. One was how, when I first came on board, there were some board members and some stakeholders in the community. I would get a call 1 second that would say, "You guys have way too many conservatives on. You're a front for the right wing." And then sometimes the same day, "Hey, you're way far to the left. You're bringing in so many people. Why don't you diversify?" And
well, that's good that you have both. I think that's important, and it's important to underscore that we do not take positions at WACA the individual councils. One of those core ethics is to be nonpartisan. So there obviously, just as there are shades of color that are brighter and deeper in certain states in the country, and there are other colors too, we're a bridge there too. We believe that there is a platform and a useful role that we play to allow people. In fact, our great founding fathers said the same thing, that to allow people to disagree civilly is what a healthy democracy is about. So whether there are emphases on say defense spending, or whether there should be tariffs or not, and what effect that would have on state and local businesses. These are all things that people disagree about, and ours is merely a convening role to bring the best minds on those issues together, so that we can help people engage on these topics and make up their own minds about what is best. And hopefully we are contributing to an open-mindedness in our publics.
I think one of our other guests is going to join is trying to log in, but I didn't want to forget something very important that you did recently. You do a lot of important things, but this one was very historically important and also significant to cover, and that was the focus on the Holocaust program that PBS just did. And I think they just aired it, if I'm not mistaken, on PBS, or will air it. Can you tell us about that partnership, that program, and the partnership with PBS?
Sure. Thanks for mentioning that. And I know we will be having a chance to talk about other programs and partnerships too in this conversation shortly. But that one was interesting and very satisfying. And I think importantly, will open future doors. So a couple of years ago, actually, thanks to one of our national board members from Pittsburgh, I was introduced to an executive producer, Daryl Ford Williams at WQED in Pittsburgh, and which is a public broadcasting entity there. And she was applying for a project to a number of national funders for a film documentary, which ultimately was called Harbor from the Holocaust, about the Shanghai Landers, who were approximately 20,000 Jewish refugees from Germany and Austria and other parts of Europe, who had nowhere to go in the late 30s, and as they were fleeing Kristallnacht and the pogroms, that they had a Chinese diplomat in Vienna for a time, among others, but he specifically, Ho Feng Shan, who processed visas to allow them to travel to Shanghai, where they integrated with at first the existing Jewish community, but also the Chinese. And as the Japanese who had invaded China started to clamp down, and later as the US started to bomb Asia, China, Japan in World War II, life became extremely challenging for these Jewish refugees. But amazingly, most were able to survive despite the hardship. And theirs is an affirmation story. It's kind of like a Schindler of the Far East, only much more lives were saved. And in terms of the partnership, you know, anytime you can get on the same hour as we were in our sneak preview on September 2nd with Yo-Yo Ma and Senator Ben Cardin and the documentary producer, Vivian Fung, and others with the Corporation of Public Broadcasting, it's good for WACA. And it's good to treat historic issues as it is contemporary issues. And this partnership, I think, will lead to other things. The Harbor for the Holocaust aired finally on PBS September 8th, 2 nights ago. And I believe they will have future airings. And I offered to the documentarist that she, if interested, that she do screenings and discussions on this great issue, this great subject at local World Affairs Councils.
Oh, that'd be great. That'd be really, really good. What a great opportunity for that, and it's available to share. I think you all sent us the recorded link where we could share all that. Well, as we wait for Donnie to join in, I did want to save Mr. Alvarez's video to share. He did a video for us some time ago. You probably haven't seen it, but it is a few years old, but I thought I would share it.
Would love to see it.
So if you give me a second here, I'll try to share my screen. If it's possible to do. All right. Let's see here. Let me know when you see. Do you see the screen?
I see the screen. Yeah.
All right.
Is this also going live for your recording? Oh, great.
The World Affairs Council of San Antonio. For many years, I have had the great honor of having been chairman, and I have tremendously benefited from the association with this fine organization. I came to San Antonio from Mexico and established my company here. And the World Affairs Council really gave me a tremendous window to the world and world affairs. From that window, I could look out and be participatory to many experiences that really enriched my life and both professionally and personally. My great experience at the council, and unique opportunity that I was afforded by being a member was when I was given the opportunity to participate and become a board member of the umbrella organization, the World Affairs Council of America in DC. This organization serves the 90 plus councils throughout the United States and gives you a perception not only of the very rich and interesting programming in San Antonio, but gave me a great chance to meet with many other board members and executive directors, presidents of the various councils throughout the nation, and offered us an opportunity to travel to these councils and learn more, networking on the prospects for fundraising opportunities, programming, and diversity that is so rich within the whole program. One very significant program that is provided by the organization in DC is the Academic World Quest. These congregates 4,000 plus students throughout the United States into a competition where the winning teams from 40, 50 councils send their representatives to DC for the final competition. And this is really an extraordinary way for us, all of us, to be able to engage young students into a program that really gets them exposed in a very serious way to foreign affairs, globalization, and covering all areas of politics, social, economics, and these extraordinarily tenacious and bright students who experience global affairs in these very arduous competition will be, no doubt, many of them significant candidates for the State Department and will represent the U.S. From a government perspective in an official capacity, as well as I'm sure they will be international business leaders with this exposure. So if the role of the council is to expose and educate the American public to foreign affairs and globalization, this Academic World Quest program is something of extraordinary value that touches not only San Antonio, but many, many cities within the United States and culminate in DC for the final competition. So that has been something of significant effect as an experience that I have had in my life in this organization.
All right. There we are. Let me shut it off here.
Armen, thank you for sharing that video with me and with the entire audience. It's always great to see Carlos, whether particularly live. I was on Zoom with him and the rest of the WACA National Board yesterday, and his advice, his thoughtfulness, and his really how much he cares about your organization and mine, and how these organizations serve our respective constituents is really unparalleled. And his wife Malu's philanthropy is also extraordinary. A couple of years ago, they provided a large gift which formed the basis for a national endowment for the Academic World Quest program, which is now nearly $1 million, and we will be able to tap that in future years for essentially securing this and sustaining this program, which reaches, he mentioned more than 4,000 students. I think we're probably closer to more than 5,000 students, although COVID might dent that a little this year. It's such an important and really fun program that I think engages these students, as he said, and they are our future leaders. They are our future members of councils. They are our future diplomats, and they are the ones that are going to have the global mindedness that we need.
Couldn't have said it better. Trying to see where our students, speaking of students, I don't know which.
It would be the perfect time for him to come in, because I'd love to hear about, his experience with World Quest and also how, it has laid some foundation for what he's pursuing these days.
Well, I know, and I know he's at Southern Methodist, so he was trying to get out of class to come and do this. He graduated last year. He's been on the winning team for years, and really sharp young man. But tell us, since we have time, we could delve into the academic World Quest. You talked about Mr. Alvarez's support with the endowment. Why do you think that's important to have a forum like the academic World Quest?
Well, a lot of council leaders have said to me, and I'm sure, as you know, when we meet a couple times a year to share best practices, one of the topics that comes up quite a bit is, how do we connect with young professionals and younger audiences? And my whole view is that we have to start as early as possible, and that we need to provide a set of programs that will appeal to them, and that they will remember what World Affairs Councils do and how positive that's been for them. So it is by no means the only program that councils undertake. And of course, there's language learning and volunteering for a variety of NGOs, some which deal with, say, immigration or other international concerns. And these kids are so precocious and wanting to know what's going on in the world that they just are truly engaged with the material, and they come to DC, and we arrange special programs and also prizes for the winners that expose them to embassies and international organizations such as the United States Institute of Peace, which has been our venue host the past couple of years. And so they get to talk to professionals, policy professionals and researchers and folks who have been all over the world in every corner working on issues of peace and war and conflict resolution, and how that relates to human rights or other women's issues and technology and so forth. So it's real, and it's real for the kids, and they are ambassadors for us, and they help explain what we do, which is great.
We recently had a panel that we're going to make it a quarterly thing, where we have 7 local colleges. So we asked one student from each college, and we had an 1.5-hour program, 4 for the first segment and 3 for the next, all college students who are interested in international affairs. And let me tell you, that was, there was so much optimism, positive vibes from them, and you know that you and I have been there. It's some of it is being a little idealist, but I think that's what's missing, and to have the youth involved, and particularly at those at the academic world quest level. I mean, it says a lot for, you know, who's going to fill the shoes of the foreign service officers.
Absolutely.
So,
You know, I'm Armen. I'm involved on a strategic planning task force with one of the councils. I've had a lot of interactions with different councils in different ways, and I'm loving this engagement especially because it's always nice to hear what's on your mind, and you know, what you just said reminded me of you know, the role that these young people play. In this strategic planning task force, there are there's a high school student, there's someone who's a young professional. I'm trying to remember now if a college student is on the team as well. But the contributions and their perspective on how councils ought to frankly cater to a broader community, an inclusive community that you know, where there's a thirst for the kind of content and discussions that we have, and if people are feeling left out, it's too bad. We're leaving that on the table. And to hear how they express their desire to be involved, you know, I want adults that committed.
very true, very true. All right. Well, I apologize not having Donnie on. We'll have to.
Let's do it again another time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So since we have a few minutes left, anything happen nationally? Anything? You know, we've talked about the partnership with PBS. Are there other partnerships or things that you could talk about that are on the horizon?
Gladly. One is with your council, which is the second year in a row we're at WACA delivering the Wunderbar Together Engage America series, which focuses on transatlantic relations, specifically on Germany, because the funders of this project are the German Foreign Ministry, and the implementers is Goethe Institute. And so last year we had 23 councils involved in all aspects of German politics and society, the international relations within Europe, Germany's green economy, our relations with the United States in a number of levels, from NATO to the World Health Organization and so forth, combating hate and human rights and social injustice, how they do it, what lessons we could learn, and what lessons we may have for them. So you're doing a great program, which perhaps you can talk about in October.
Yes, and what a great opportunity. We love, you know, we're always asked, what does a partnership with a national organization look like? And it's not only this that we're having now, but it's also a program we're probably going to have on October the 8th with the German General Consul from Houston, as well as the former Chief of Staff to the AMCOM ambassador in Germany. And it'll be moderated by one of our board members who's very actively involved, who's a former military, John Casey, and who's also an author and whatnot. But we're looking forward to it. It should be and it's 2 days after U.S.-German Friendship Day. So
absolutely.
And then
great timing, and it's 31 years after the fall of the Berlin Wall, and 30 years of a reunited Germany and what that means for the world. In terms of a couple of other programs that I'd like to highlight for your audience today. At the end of this month, the World Affairs Council of America is hosting a new initiative called Conversations with the C-Suite. We will feature September 29 through October 1, a number of US and non-American CEOs and C-level executives, as well as some prominent journalists who will moderate them in all different sectors of our economy, to look at what they are doing to restructure and imagine their companies and their industry sectors in the post-COVID world, and how the future of work is going to look like, and the future of management and leadership. So I think this will be an important new initiative for WACA that we hope all councils will share with their communities. And then in November, for 30 years now or so, almost 40, I should say, the national office has hosted an in-person national conference on the most important U.S. foreign policy, national security, and global issues of the moment. This helps councils set their agendas for the coming year. This year will be all virtual for the first time, unfortunately, but we have seen through our online digital engagements that in fact our audiences are tripling or quadrupling with regularity. And so we expect to reach more people. And again, we hope that you, Armen, in San Antonio and our other colleagues will promote the national conference, because coming right on the heels of our consequential presidential election, what the next administration will do vis-a-vis America's position in the world and our policies, whether it's Donald Trump or Joe Biden and their administration team. We have a lot to discuss, and it will be an exciting time. So I encourage you all to join us.
I would remiss to also mention our sister organization affiliates around the country who are, I know Kansas City is doing a program on democracy and press or something like that. I know a lot of other affiliates, New Hampshire, Boston, wherever you live, if you're tuning in and whatever we're saying sounds appealing, there is more than likely an affiliate that is in your community. My family lives in Santa Rosa, California, and they have a very small operation. And I went there and I met with them. We had some tea. It's a board run organization, but very nice folks. And so keep a lookout for the World Affairs Councils of America. At the very least, sign up to get their newsletters, because they combine not only programs that the national office does, but also the affiliates. And of course, we love that because we share it with our members and our supporters too. Bill Clifford, who's the president and CEO of the World Affairs Councils of America, thank you so much. I know you've got a busy day yourself, and you're so generous with your time. So I appreciate you for your leadership on the national level and for being a good friend to San Antonio.
Armen, thank you very much for the chance to talk with you, and I will be glad to join you anytime for such conversations. And thanks to your council, I urge your members and participants and audience today especially, this is the big give day for San Antonio. Local councils really depend on your support. We are essential too. We are helping our communities understand the world, and we forge connections with the first responders and others. We really want to be useful to you, and you can help us by being supportive of Armen and his council. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate that very much. You have a great week, and good luck with your next meeting, because I know you have an important one coming up.
Thanks very much.
All right, Bill. Have a good one.
You too. Good luck.
Thank you.